Steffy Forrester had always been the woman who carried the weight of others' worlds on her shoulders, but nothing could have prepared her for the nightmare unraveling around her in the quiet sanctuary of the Cliff House. What began as a temporary refuge for Liam Spencer had quickly turned into a medical crisis she could neither escape nor fully understand. Liam's condition, once manageable, had grown rapidly worse. At first, there were just the persistent headaches, moments of dizziness he tried to laugh off. Then came the nausea, the confusion, the tremors. But nothing compared to the violent seizures that took over his body without warning. One night, Steffy found Liam collapsed on the bathroom floor, convulsing and gasping for air. It was in that moment she realized she could no longer pretend things would get better. The man who once held her heart, the father of her child, was slipping away, and no amount of comfort or whispered reassurances would stop what was coming. With tears in her eyes and her hands trembling, she called for help, her voice cracking as she screamed for Finn. The man she loved came running, his medical instincts kicking in immediately as he dropped beside Liam and tried to stabilize him. But the look in Finn's eyes betrayed something more than clinical concern. It was desperation. Steffy saw it, the fear he tried to hide as he examined Liam and realized the tumor had progressed beyond anything they'd anticipated. Every breath Liam took seemed like a struggle against his own body, and Steffy clung to the hope that Finn, her husband, the doctor she believed in, could find a way to save him. Finn, for his part, worked tirelessly. He consulted with specialists, reviewed every scan, every test, every sliver of information that might hold the key to reversing the damage. But the reality was unyielding. Liam's tumor was aggressive, relentless, and resistant to traditional treatment. Refusing to give up, Finn decided to try an experimental drug regimen, a bold move that required immediate approval from the hospital board and supervising physicians. But time was not on their side, and Finn made a choice. A choice that would change everything. In the emergency room, with Liam barely conscious and slipping into another seizure, Finn administered the medication. Steffy stood nearby, her hands clasped tightly, praying to a God she hadn't spoken to in years, praying that this man, the man who had once torn her world apart and then fought to be part of it again, would survive. But instead of improvement, Liam's body reacted violently. He went into anaphylactic shock, his heart raced and then faltered, and the machines monitoring his vitals screamed as nurses rushed in. Despite all efforts, despite Finn's pounding on his chest, the adrenaline, the paddles, the begging, the prayers, Liam was pronounced dead. The silence that followed was deafening. Steffy stood frozen, her world shattered in an instant. She watched as Finn stumbled back from the bed, his eyes wide in horror, his hands bloodied, trembling. The man who had sworn to do no harm had watched life slip away under his care. And the consequences came quickly. Within hours, the hospital board launched an internal investigation. The fact that Finn had bypassed protocol, administering an unapproved drug without clearance, was a violation they could not ignore. But it didn't stop there. The police arrived. At first, it was just standard procedure. A death, even a medically complicated one, warranted a full report. But the whispers started almost immediately. Liam Spencer hadn't just been a patient. He was Bill Spencer's son. He was the ex-husband of Steffy Forrester. And he had recently been growing closer to her again. Closer in ways that had made Finn visibly uncomfortable, even jealous. That jealousy, some said, could have become motive. Did Finn see Liam as a threat to his marriage? Did he let personal feelings cloud his medical judgment? Or worse, did he intend for Liam not to survive? Bill Spencer made no effort to temper his rage. Standing in the hospital hallway, face to face with Finn, he delivered a scathing accusation. "You killed my son," he snarled, pointing a shaking finger at the man Steffy loved. "Don't think I don't know what this is." Liam was getting close to Steffy again, and you couldn't handle it. "You took him out." Steffy, still in shock, stepped between them, her voice raw and trembling. "That's not true. Finn would never. He tried to save him. He did everything he could." But even as she spoke the words, doubt began to gnaw at her heart. Not because she believed Finn was capable of murder, but because the situation had spiraled so far beyond control. The media descended on the hospital like vultures. Headlines screamed of scandal and suspicion. Doctor under investigation for ex-husband's death, Steffy Forrester caught in love triangle turned tragedy. Was it medical malpractice or murder? The pressure mounted quickly. Finn was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. His license was in jeopardy. His reputation, once sterling, was being dissected by the public and media alike. And through it all, Steffy was forced to grieve the loss of a man she once loved while watching another man she loved fall apart in front of her eyes. But even worse than the loss or the scandal was the haunting question no one dared to ask aloud. What if Finn really had something to hide? Steffy couldn't ignore the fact that Finn had always been fiercely protective, even possessive, when it came to her. He had never liked the closeness she and Liam maintained for the sake of their daughter. He had always bristled when Liam lingered too long, when he stepped too far into family moments that should have belonged only to Steffy and Finn. And though she wanted to believe Finn had acted purely out of medical urgency, that he had taken a risk to save a life, there was a darkness looming over it all. That darkness had a name: Sheila Carter. Steffy had fought hard to keep Sheila out of their lives, out of her children's lives. But Sheila was persistent, cunning, and most dangerously, she was Finn's mother. Despite all the promises to distance himself, to choose his wife over the toxic influence of his biological mother, Steffy knew there were moments, private, unexplained moments, when Finn had seen Sheila. Conversations he never recounted in full. Phone calls that ended abruptly when Steffy entered the room. Sheila had a way of getting under people's skin, of manipulating their thoughts, twisting their loyalties. And now, with Liam dead and Finn at the center of a storm, Steffy couldn't help but wonder if Sheila's influence had gone deeper than anyone realized. Did Sheila see Liam as a threat to her son's family? Did she plant seeds of doubt, of resentment, in Finn's mind? Could she have encouraged him to remove the problem in the name of protecting his marriage? Or was the truth even more horrifying? Was Sheila herself somehow involved? As the days passed, the investigation deepened. Autopsy reports confirmed that the drug Finn administered had indeed caused a severe allergic reaction, and that the tumor's rapid growth had compromised Liam's neurological system. But questions remained. Why didn't Finn follow protocol? Why did he act alone? What pressure, what fear, what desperation drove him to take such a risk? Steffy was called in for questioning. So was Bill. So were nurses, board members, specialists. Finn himself sat in an interrogation room, eyes hollow, voice shaking, explaining his actions again and again. He spoke of trying to save a man's life. He denied any ill intent. But every time the name Sheila came up, he grew tense, defensive, and that only fed the fire. In her private moments, Steffy sat by Liam's grave, her fingers brushing the cold stone, trying to find answers in silence. She remembered the last words Liam had said to her, how he told her he still loved her, how he believed they could find their way back to each other. And she remembered how Finn had heard those words too. In the echo of those memories, she began to see the shape of something far more dangerous than grief or jealousy. She saw the outline of a tragedy born not just from illness or impulse, but perhaps from legacy. From the blood that ran through Finn's veins. From the shadow of a woman named Sheila who had destroyed lives for decades. And yet, even with her heart shattered and her world unraveling, Steffy knew one thing: the truth would come out. It had to. Whether it exonerated Finn or damned him, whether it brought closure or opened new wounds, she had to face it. Because Liam was gone. Her family was broken. And someone had to be held accountable. Whether that someone was the man she married or the woman who had given birth to him. Would you like a continuation exploring the aftermath of Finn's trial and how Steffy navigates her fractured life?
Oh,